our answer to anybody coming in the door was, well, we have a cluster. And what I've learned is that most researchers don't know what a cluster is, have no interest in using a cluster. Mentioning SSH, you can hear the crickets outside. Now, my job was to make sure that we were enabling research, period. Right? That was the term of art.
Yep.
And we never had a good solution for people that needed, well, typically they'd be standing in the doorway with their laptop. And they go, well, I'm trying to do this analysis on my laptop and it's not running and it's too slow or I'm burning my thighs or, something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'd say, well, we have the cluster. And they'd be like, no, don't you have anything else? So
Yep.
the way to think of Lightsail for research is really laptop plus, giving them the extra oomph, a GPU, more memory, more cores, whatever it is they need to run these analyses to take them beyond the kind of self-imposed constraints that a laptop has.
And the experience that I've had, people will scale up their research to the limit of their laptop.
Exactly.
Because
That's
like
what
you
I
say,
think.
they don't have the skills to jump out of the laptop. And
Yeah,
what they actually need is a bigger Jupyter notebook or a bigger RStudio
that's right.
in order to do some of this work on. And the scientific community is going begging because some of these people could be exploring much bigger problems, but they don't have the tools to do it.
I'm going to give you a pro tip on the question to ask a researcher and anybody watching that does enablement is to ask somebody what they're leaving on the table by doing it the way they're doing it now. So this is
Yep.
the main AWS console. And one of the reasons we teamed up with the Lightsail team at AWS to build this is we really wanted to try and avoid these types of users landing on this page, right? You can come directly to this page. We're going to go from nothing to a running instance with just basically 3 clicks and entering a name. So the first thing we do is we're going to pick a region. I'm going to pick Oregon. Lightsail for Research is available in 13 of AWS's regions around the world. You can see them here. And let's just pick RStudio. But before I do that, let me just show you these tiles. So we have applications here. We have 5 applications in one OS. If people have ideas for applications they'd like to see, we certainly want to hear about it. All of these applications are based on Ubuntu. I will say that if you pick an application, once the system is up, it's your system to do what you want with it, right? You can still get to the OS underneath. You can still install other things. And, this is really just a convenience to speed up the process of having a working system.
Brilliant.
The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to give it a name, and I'm just going to call this, I name my computers after colors, so you can excuse me there. I'll call it Scarlet.
Yep.
And then we have a plan. We have 2 kinds of bundles here. We wanted to make sure we were giving people research class instance types. So the top row there, these 3 are C5 based instances. So these are, you would create a cluster with C5s potentially, right? This
Yeah,
is
right.
serious machines. Most people are using pretty, maybe the same as this standard Excel system with 4 cores and 8 gig of RAM. The bottom row are GPU instances. These are G4DNs. So these are good for both, machine learning or any kind of, GPU accelerated science or visualization. I've had several testers who are doing things like peer review and things like that, where they just want to do visualization for a couple hours. They do it, and boom, the whole thing goes away. Lightsail is all about bundled bits and pieces, right, to make up the solution.
Mm-hmm.
So when it says 90 cents an hour or it says $3.18 an hour for the big GPU instance, that's including everything you need. I like to use the example of like an Uber, right? When you take an Uber to the airport, right, they don't charge you for the hubcap and the windshield wiper and the muffler. The point here is we're trying to keep this transparent so people can have an understanding. So a lot of these users also have, spending anxiety with the cloud. It's like, oh, I don't know what it's going to cost, and I'm used to just spending the money.
This keeps it extremely transparent. Everybody knows exactly what they're going to get.
Exactly. Here we're billing per second like we do on regular EC2. So,
and a customer can take their Lightsail instance and turn it off when they're not using it, right? And then come back to it tomorrow afternoon and just pick up where they left off.
Actually, we have something even better than that, which I'm going to show you in a second. And in a second here, it's going to take us to the main screen. And you can see here I have a computer that I started the other day or a few days ago. And then we have the machine that we just created. It's still creating it. So it's going to take a minute or 2 for it to provision. So we try and give you a progress meter here. While that's doing that, I want to talk about, we were just talking about the spend. We also like to keep a running update of what the cost estimate, and again, this is an estimate for the month, given the usage so far. So let's launch our studio. We use the nice DCV remote desktop, which is a really fantastic tool.
And it's going to build that. It's going to build the nice DCV session inside a browser tab, right?
That's right. So in a second, you're going to see we're going to get a new browser.
And by the way, this is the magic that got Netflix's attention a few years ago when they saw the whole idea of having a complete desktop inside a browser tab.
That's right.
And in fact, most of their editing suites for doing all of the video production for movies and stuff on Netflix is getting done in an environment just like this.
You're ready to rock here in our studio. Now, one of the things that also you probably is like, well, I need a disk for my data. So I'm going to click on Scarlett here. You can see that we have the system disk and it is mounted, but we may want to add another disk for our data. So I'm going to create a disk, create. And again, we have a set of, these are EBS volumes. I'm going to call this Scarlett disk. And I'm going to keep it in the same region, and I'm just going to leave it at 8 gigabytes here. And again, we see what the cost for that will be per month.
Oh, go on, be daring. Scale it up to 32 gig. Give me 30.
Let's do 256. Let's go nuts. Create this. Now we're going to attach. So if I have multiple computers, they will show up here. And I will say attach. You can see here it says it's mounting this disk. So we've now mounted the Scarlett disk, and it tells us the mount path. So
back over here,
it just showed up right here in our home directory. So, if I click on that, right now I'm on that disk that we just created. And again, you have total control of the system. One other thing that's worth showing is at the top here in Actions, the first menu item here is Access Operating System. So if I click on this, it will open another DCV session.
Open a web browser. Oh, look at that.
Yeah. So web here I can bring up Firefox. And, I can go to, aws.amazon.com, or whatever. Boom.
You could open up a shell here. You could sudo to root. You could do all of the wonderful things that you want to do to your box.
Feature. Exactly.
This is why people are going to want to use this.
Right. So I whined and we have to have this.
And eventually engineering listened to you.
This is a cost control rule. So yes, we have budget alerts and all these other kinds of things in EC2 that, can give you warnings and texts and emails, and you can set up a lot of stuff to do this, and that's great. But here, again, these kind of users are never going to do that and never remember to do that. And so we created a very simple rule. So we can say, create a cost control rule. We pick a virtual computer, so we'll switch over to Scarlett here. This is basically an idle rule. So once the system goes idle, after a certain amount of time, we want it to stop the instance. And what happens when you stop an instance on AWS?
You stop paying for it.
Exactly. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to say the metric is going to be CPU utilization. We're going to say when it's less than or equal to, I'll leave it at the default 5%. You can see you can change that to something else. For 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
We want this to stop. So I'm going to create the rule. So we're going to confirm that. And we're going to get a rule here. So
this is, I've gone down the hall to get a coffee, and I got interrupted by Janet, and we had a conversation in the coffee room, and it ended up going for 45 minutes before I came back to my desk. I just saved half an hour's worth of spend.
Or I'm running a analysis, whatever it is, and I go to bed, and it's going to run for 6 hours or 4 hours, and I don't want to finish. And when it finishes, the CPU is going to go idle, and it'll stop. And
mind-blowing. This is awesome.
If you wanted to change the instance underneath, let's say I want to go to a bigger instance or a smaller instance, the way you would do that is we would go to Snapshots, and you could take a snapshot of Scarlett, create snapshot, and we're going to just call it Scarlett Snap. And so it's going to create that. And
then you can launch a machine using one of the pre-existing snapshots that you've taken.
That's right. You see here, it says create virtual computer. So if I want, I could either, go back to this because I, deleted something or
I want to bifurcate my tests now.
Right.
And I want to run a big model over here and a medium-sized model over there. Yep. And I want to run both of these side by side this evening after dinner. And now I'm going to go to dinner while these run, and they'll turn off when they're finished.
That's right.
Scott, thank you for coming along and showing this to us today. I am awed this is the thing. This is the beginning of an interesting, hopefully very long journey.
I hope so. Thank you for having me. It means a lot that you see you see the value here for our customers and more broadly. So I really appreciate the time.
Customers are going to be thrilled. So, all right. So for folks who want to get more information, they can get more information by going to awsamazon.com/Lightsail, and you'll find a link for Lightsail for Research in there. If you learned something from this talk, then please consider giving us a like and subscribing to the channel so you can find out when more videos like this are available. And if there's an area you'd like to see us go deeper into, don't hesitate to reach out and let us know. See you next time.